Dave Stewart built one of the most remarkable careers in Major League Baseball history. A three-time World Series champion, four-time 20-game winner, World Series MVP, and Roberto Clemente Award winner, he's remembered as one of the most intimidating pitchers of his generation. But his journey to the top was anything but straightforward. Before becoming Smoke, the clutch performer who dominated October baseball, Stewart hit what he called his rock bottom, a period in the mid-1980s marked by serious personal struggles and professional setbacks that nearly ended his career before it truly began. Born in Oakland, California in 1957, Stewart's path to baseball stardom took a dramatic turn during his time with the Los Angeles Dodgers and Texas Rangers in the mid-1980s. This period would test him in ways no opponent ever could. In 1984, Stewart faced a difficult situation involving his Dodgers teammate Steve Howe. Howe, the 1980 Rookie of the Year, was struggling with severe cocaine addiction. Stewart later admitted publicly that he knew Howe was using cocaine, even during games, but chose not to report it. His reasoning was simple: he didn't want to be seen as a snitch, and he believed the drug use wasn't affecting Howe's performance. This decision reflected the complex culture of professional sports at the time, where loyalty to teammates often conflicted with institutional rules and a teammate's well-being. Howe's addiction would eventually lead to repeated relapses and his banishment from baseball, raising questions about whether earlier intervention might have helped. What do you think about the loyalty dilemmas athletes face when teammates struggle with addiction? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into baseball history, hit that subscribe button for more stories about the complex lives of sports legends. The following year brought Stewart's most publicized personal crisis. While pitching for the Texas Rangers in 1985, he was arrested on suspicion of lewd conduct with a prostitute. He pleaded no contest to the lesser charge of soliciting a prostitute, receiving a fine, probation, and a suspended sentence. What happened next showed Stewart's approach to crisis management. Just 2 days after his arrest, he was scheduled to receive the Good Guys Award from Dallas-Fort Worth sports writers. Rather than avoiding the ceremony, Stewart attended and publicly admitted his guilt and expressed his shame. This moment of transparency, uncomfortable as it was, helped him control the narrative and begin moving forward from the incident. Stewart's on-field performance was also struggling during this period. After a poor relief appearance that cost the Rangers the lead in 1985, frustrated home fans booed him loudly. Stewart's response was to call the fans idiots and challenge them to try doing his job. The outburst cost him a $500 fine from the team. Combined with his ineffective pitching, this lack of composure made him appear volatile and expendable in the eyes of the organization. The lowest point came in 1986, shortly after Stewart joined the Oakland Athletics. Following a home run by Tony Bernazard, Stewart threw what's known as a purpose pitch behind the next batter, shortstop Julio Franco. This type of pitch is thrown to send a message or retaliate. Cleveland Indians manager Pat Corrales rushed onto the field demanding Stewart be ejected. The confrontation escalated quickly. When Corrales approached the mound, Stewart punched him with a right cross to the jaw. The benches cleared, and Stewart received a 4-game suspension and fine from the league. This act of physical aggression against a manager represented the peak of Stewart's behavioral struggles. These 4 incidents between 1984 and 1986 paint a picture of someone dealing with serious personal and professional turmoil. Stewart was at what he himself described as rock bottom. He was humiliated and discarded, with no big league teams wanting his services. His signing with his hometown Oakland Athletics was, by his own account, an act of desperation. But this crisis became a turning point. The complete collapse of his relief pitching career, combined with the weight of his personal struggles, forced Stewart to make fundamental changes. Being relegated to a minor league tryout opened the door for a career transformation. Under manager Tony La Russa and pitching coach Dave Duncan, Stewart converted from a reliever to a starting pitcher. This change required new levels of discipline, preparation, and mental focus. The role demanded consistency over an entire season rather than short bursts of performance. Stewart had to rebuild his approach to the game from the ground up, learning to pace himself and manage his emotions over the course of long outings. The transformation worked spectacularly. From 1987 to 1990, Stewart won 20 or more games 4 consecutive seasons with the Athletics. He became known for his intimidating presence on the mound and his ability to perform in high-pressure situations. His trademark stare became legendary, as he would glare at batters with an intensity that made them uncomfortable even before the first pitch. Stewart's fastball and forkball combination proved devastating. He developed a reputation as someone who wanted the ball in the biggest moments. When the Athletics needed a win in a crucial game, Stewart was the pitcher they turned to. His postseason performances were particularly impressive as he seemed to elevate his game when the stakes were highest. In 1989, he won the World Series MVP award. In 1990, he received the Roberto Clemente Award for his community service. He won World Series championships with 3 different teams, cementing his reputation as a big-game pitcher. However, even during his peak success, Stewart's confrontational nature surfaced again. In February 1994, while a member of the Toronto Blue Jays, Stewart and teammate Todd Stottlemyre were arrested in Dunedin, Florida after an altercation at a nightclub. The incident reportedly started over Stewart's refusal to pay a small cover fee. Stewart faced serious charges, including battery on a law enforcement officer and resisting arrest with violence. During the 7-day jury trial, witnesses alleged that Stewart had taunted police officers by referencing his $1 million salary. Stewart was accused of punching an officer during the confrontation. After deliberating for just 36 minutes, the jury found both pitchers not guilty on all charges. While the acquittal protected Stewart legally, the incident suggested that the aggressive impulses from his earlier years hadn't completely disappeared, even after achieving tremendous success and wealth. After retiring from playing, Stewart worked as a coach and sports agent before taking on an executive role. In 2014, he was hired as general manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, working under Chief Baseball Officer Tony La Russa. This position would lead to what some consider Stewart's second major professional crisis, though this time it was about strategic decision-making rather than personal conduct. Stewart's tenure with the Diamondbacks lasted only 2 seasons. He was fired in October 2016 after the team posted a disappointing 69-93 record. Industry analysts quickly dubbed the regime led by La Russa and Stewart the reign of error, criticizing the front office as a laughingstock due to what they perceived as basic incompetence, particularly regarding understanding draft rules, bonus pools, and international signing regulations. The criticism was unusually harsh, with baseball insiders questioning whether Stewart and La Russa had adapted to the modern game at all. The most criticized decision of Stewart's executive career was the December 2015 trade that brought pitcher Shelby Miller to Arizona. The Diamondbacks gave up center fielder Ender Inciarte and 2 highly regarded prospects, Aaron Blair and Dansby Swanson, who had just been selected as the #1 overall pick in the 2015 draft. The deal was criticized immediately and universally. Stewart defended the trade by saying he went with his gut. Unfortunately, Miller struggled badly, posting a career-worst 6.15 ERA in 2016, dealing with injuries, and even being demoted to AAA. Meanwhile, Swanson became a star shortstop for the Atlanta Braves, and Inciarte earned a lucrative contract extension. The trade is consistently cited as one of the worst in modern baseball history. Baseball analysts pointed out that modern valuation tools would have immediately flagged the trade as wildly unbalanced, suggesting Stewart's front office either didn't use these tools or ignored their findings entirely. Beyond the Miller trade, Stewart's front office made other costly mistakes. When signing Cuban pitcher Yohan Lopez for $8 million, the organization demonstrated unfamiliarity with international bonus pool rules. This mistake resulted in an additional $8 million penalty fine and a ban from signing any international free agents for 2 signing periods, dealing a severe blow to the team's ability to develop talent. The error was particularly damaging because it handicapped the organization's ability to compete for young international talent at a time when many contending teams were building their rosters through this avenue. Sources also reported that Stewart attempted to execute another trade in early 2015 that would have violated MLB rules, requiring the other team's general manager to explain the regulations to him. Additional questionable decisions included signing Cuban slugger Yasmani Tomas to a 6-year, $68.5 million contract. While Thomas hit 31 home runs in 1 season, his extremely low on-base percentage and defensive problems resulted in negative overall value. The front office also lost reliever Will Harris on waivers. Harris became an all-star with the Houston Astros, posting a 2.07 ERA over the next 2 seasons. Stewart's firing in October 2016 was the direct result of these accumulated strategic errors. After his dismissal, he attempted to shift blame, claiming his gut had told him not to make the Miller trade. The failures of his executive tenure demonstrated the challenge of transitioning from player to front office leader in baseball's increasingly analytical era. The instincts and confidence that served him well on the mound didn't translate to the complex, data-driven environment of modern baseball operations. Dave Stewart's career presents a study in contrasts. The same intensity and aggression that made him a dominant, intimidating pitcher also contributed to his personal struggles and confrontational incidents. As an executive, his reliance on gut feelings and traditional baseball instincts clashed with the analytical approach that had become essential for success in front offices. His story illustrates that the qualities that make someone excellent in one role don't automatically transfer to another, even within the same sport. Despite these struggles and failures, Stewart's legacy as a player remains secure. As Smoke, he was one of the most clutch performers in baseball history. His 4 consecutive 20-win seasons, 3 World Series championships with different teams, and reputation as a big-game pitcher ensure his place in baseball lore. His journey from rock bottom in the mid-1980s to the top of his profession shows remarkable resilience and the capacity for personal transformation. Stewart's story reminds us that athletes are complex people who face challenges both on and off the field. Success in sports doesn't guarantee success in other areas of life, and even the most decorated careers include difficult chapters. For more deep dives into the complicated legacies of sports figures, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments which athlete's story you'd like us to explore next.
Always drunk. That's what people thought about Dennis Eckersley in 1986. He was 32, playing for the Chicago Cubs, and his career was falling apart. His ERA had ballooned to 4.57. He was giving up home runs left and right. What fans didn't know was that, behind the scenes, Eckersley was drowning in alcoholism that had started when he was just 17 years old. But this isn't just another sad sports story about a wasted talent. This is about how one man's darkest moment became the foundation for greatness. Dennis Eckersley was born in Oakland, California in 1954. From the start, he was a natural athlete who played both football and baseball in high school. But he gave up football to protect his throwing arm, focusing entirely on baseball. His talent was obvious. The Cleveland Indians drafted him in the 3rd round in 1972, and by April 1975, at just 20 years old, Eckersley made his major league debut. Those early years looked promising. He threw a no-hitter and won 20 games in a season. His distinctive high leg kick, inspired by his idol Juan Marichal, became his signature on the mound. Eckersley seemed destined for stardom, but what nobody knew was that his battle with alcohol had already begun the same year he was drafted. While he was achieving success on the field, he was secretly fighting a demon that would nearly destroy everything. The personal chaos started early. In 1973, Eckersley married his first wife, Denise, and they had a daughter named Mandy. But in 1978, his world exploded. Denise left him for Rick Manning, who wasn't just any teammate, he was Eckersley's close friend on the Cleveland Indians. The affair created such tension in the clubhouse that the team had to make a decision. They traded Eckersley to the Boston Red Sox just before opening day. This betrayal was devastating, but Eckersley tried to move forward. He married model Nancy O'Neill in 1980, and together they adopted 2 children, Jake and Alexandra. On the surface, things looked stable, but underneath, the drinking was getting worse. His performance on the field started to suffer. From 1980 to 1983 with the Red Sox, he posted a disappointing 43-48 record with a 4.43 ERA. In 1983 alone, his ERA shot up to 5.61. The physical problems were mounting too. In 1979, Eckersley developed a persistent sore arm that led to back and shoulder injuries. He was giving up 142 home runs in 5 seasons with Boston. He struggled against left-handed batters and couldn't control base runners. Some people even blamed his high leg kick delivery for causing arm problems. The combination of injuries and alcohol was creating a downward spiral where each problem made the other worse. In 1984, the Red Sox traded him to the Chicago Cubs in exchange for Bill Buckner. It was a clear sign that his value was dropping. By 1986, Eckersley had hit what he later called rock bottom. His drinking had reached dangerous levels, and his family could see he was in serious trouble. That's when something happened that saved his life. His family, including his wife Nancy and daughter, staged an intervention. They showed him a videotape of himself while he was drunk. Eckersley was horrified by what he saw. The shock of seeing himself in that condition was the wake-up call he needed. In January 1987, he checked himself into a rehabilitation facility. Quick pause here. If you're a baseball fan trying to watch games without cable, check out Fubo. It's the best streaming service for sports, and it supports the channel every time you sign up through our link below. Now back to Eck's incredible transformation. Getting sober changed everything for Eckersley. He has remained sober ever since that day in January 1987. But he always says that moment, not his Hall of Fame induction, was when his life really changed. As he put it, getting sober saved his life, and his life changed forever back in January of 1987 when I started rehab. Right after entering rehab, Eckersley was traded to the Oakland Athletics. What seemed like another setback turned into the best thing that could have happened. Oakland's manager, Tony La Russa, had a revolutionary idea. Instead of using Eckersley as a starting pitcher, he would use him as a closer, but not just any closer. La Russa pioneered the modern one-inning closer role, bringing Eckersley in almost exclusively for safe situations. This transition began in 1987 and was fully implemented by 1988. Suddenly, Eckersley wasn't just good, he was dominant. From 1988 to 1992, he averaged 44 saves per season while pitching around 62 innings and facing about 297 batters each year. He became baseball's first true ninth-inning closer and a one-inning specialist. The numbers from his closer years are incredible. He saved 387 games during his relief career. His ERA dropped dramatically compared to his starting days. In 1992, he achieved something almost impossible for a relief pitcher. He won both the American League Cy Young Award and the American League MVP Award in the same season. He was selected as an All-Star 4 times as a reliever and played a key role in the Oakland A's 1989 World Series championship. Eckersley's transformation wasn't just personal, it changed baseball strategy across the entire league. His success as a one-inning closer created a new model that teams everywhere started copying. What had begun as a desperate attempt to salvage a failing career became a revolution that affected how every team used their bullpen. His unique career path led to Hall of Fame induction in 2004. Eckersley himself acknowledged that becoming a closer was his ticket to Cooperstown. His total career numbers tell the story of two different players. As a starter from 1975 to 1986, he had a WAR of 45.8. As a reliever from 1987-1998, his WAR was 16.9. Combined, his 62.7 total WAR reflects significant success in two Eckersley became a respected baseball broadcaster known for his honest analysis and unique vocabulary. Terms like cheese, moss, and pair of shoes became part of his signature commentary style. This authenticity that marked his playing days continued in his broadcasting career. More importantly, Eckersley used his platform to help others struggling with addiction. He participated in Alcohol Awareness Week and other events, sharing his story openly. His motivation was simple. If I can help one person here tonight, then it's been worth it. He turned his deepest personal struggle into a source of strength for others. But addiction's effects can span generations, as Eckersley's family learned tragically. In December 2022, his adopted daughter Alexandra was arrested in Manchester, New Hampshire. She faced charges for abandoning her newborn son in a tent at a homeless camp during freezing temperatures. Alexandra, then 26, had been struggling with homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues. She had a previous felony drug conviction and showed signs of drug influence during the arrest, later admitting to recent cocaine and marijuana use. The court found that Alexandra presented a significant danger to children who may be in her care and to herself. She was required to enter a sober living facility and had no contact with her newborn. This heartbreaking situation showed that even when someone conquers addiction personally, the ripple effects can continue affecting family members. Despite this ongoing family pain, Dennis Eckersley's story remains one of remarkable transformation. His journey from a promising but inconsistent starting pitcher, battling addiction to a pioneering dominant closer, demonstrates the human capacity for reinvention. His sobriety, which began in January 1987, was the foundation that enabled everything else. Eckersley didn't waste his career, he nearly did. When his darkest moment came in 1986, he made the choice to change. His willingness to be vulnerable about his struggles, both during his playing days and in his broadcasting career, created an authentic public persona that resonates with fans far beyond his on-field achievements. His legacy extends beyond baseball records. It includes the human story of someone who faced significant adversity and found a way to adapt and overcome. In an era of carefully crafted public images, Eckersley's honesty about his battles and triumphs serves as inspiration and a reminder of shared human experiences. At 70 years old, Dennis Eckersley stands as proof that our lowest moments don't have to define us. Sometimes they become the catalyst for our greatest achievements. His story shows that acknowledging and overcoming personal challenges can create a more profound legacy than a perfect record ever could. What if I told you that one of baseball's greatest players never got to show his true potential? Don Mattingly, affectionately known as Donnie Baseball, dominated the sport during his peak years, but a cruel twist of fate involving chronic injuries cut short what could have been one of the most legendary careers in baseball history. Today, we're exploring the bittersweet legacy of a man who gave everything to the game, only to have his body betray him at the height of his powers. Don Mattingly's story begins like many baseball dreams, with raw talent and unwavering determination. Drafted by the New York Yankees in the 19th round of the 1979 amateur draft, few could have predicted the extraordinary impact this unassuming player would have on America's pastime. After tearing through the minor leagues with remarkable consistency, hitting .349 in his debut season and leading various leagues in batting average, Mattingly made his major league debut on September 8, 1982. What followed was nothing short of spectacular. From 1984 to 1989, Mattingly didn't just play baseball, he redefined excellence at first base. During this golden era, he maintained a batting line of 327/530, translating to a 147 OPS+, numbers that placed him among the elite players of any generation. His 1985 season stands as a masterpiece of offensive production, earning him the American League MVP award after hitting .324 with 35 home runs and a league-leading 145 RBIs, the most by a left-handed batter since Ted Williams' 159 in 1949. But Mattingly's greatness extended far beyond his offensive prowess. His defensive mastery at first base was legendary, earning him 9 Gold Glove awards, an American League record for his position. His career fielding percentage of .9959 remains one of the best in Major League history for any position, indicating he made only 4 errors per 1,000 chances. This wasn't just a statistical excellence, it was defensive artistry that complemented his hitting brilliance perfectly. The numbers from his peak years tell an incredible story. During his most dominant stretch from 1984 to 1987, Mattingly averaged 30 home runs and 46 doubles per 162 games. In 1987, he etched his name in MLB history by hitting an MLB record 6 Grand Slams in a single season. Remarkably, these were the only 6 Grand Slams of his entire career. He also tied Dale Long's record by hitting home runs in 8 consecutive games that same year. His 1986 season saw him break single-season Yankees franchise records for hits and doubles, previously held by legends Earl Combs and Lou Gehrig since 1927. However, beneath this extraordinary success lurked a devastating truth that would ultimately define Mattingly's career. The trajectory of his illustrious playing career was profoundly altered by persistent and debilitating chronic back issues. These problems began manifesting in 1987, but became particularly severe in 1990, forcing him to miss significant time. The underlying cause was eventually identified as a congenital disc deformity, a physical condition he was born with. This revelation transforms Mattingly's narrative from a typical injury story to something far more tragic. This wasn't an injury sustained during play, despite rumors of a clubhouse wrestling match that both Mattingly and former teammate Bob Shirley consistently refuted. Instead, it was an unavoidable, pre-existing physical limitation that inherently curtailed a career of immense promise. His stoicism regarding this debilitating condition, choosing not to publicly complain during his playing days and only addressing it in retirement by stating he didn't want any sympathy, further highlights his exceptional character. The impact on his performance was devastating. Early in his career, his power had developed significantly, partly due to mechanical adjustments suggested by hitting coach Lou Piniella. However, his compromised back prevented him from executing his swing with the same force and fluidity. After 1989, his batting average, while still respectable, saw a noticeable dip, and his slugging percentage began hovering around the league mean after he turned 27. This decline significantly diminished his overall value as a first baseman, a position typically associated with offensive production. The extent of this lost potential is underscored by renowned baseball statistician Bill James, who had projected that Mattingly could reach an astonishing 4,000 career hits if he remained healthy after his stellar 1986 season. He ultimately concluded his career with 2,153 hits, a stark illustration of what was lost due to his physical struggles. Before we continue exploring Mattingly's incredible journey, Let me tell you about today's sponsor, FUBO. Just like Mattingly revolutionized first base defense, FUBO is revolutionizing how we watch sports. With over 100 channels including ESPN, Fox Sports, and MLB Network, you'll never miss a moment of baseball action. Whether you're analyzing defensive plays like Mattingly's Gold Glove performances or catching the latest games, FUBO delivers crystal clear streaming with no cable required. Plus, with their cloud DVR, you can record games and watch them whenever you want. Sign up today using the link in the description and get your first month for just $49.99. Despite his physical limitations, Mattingly demonstrated remarkable resilience. He continued playing with the same intense dedication, maintaining above-average performance and winning 4 additional Gold Gloves after 1990. This sustained defensive excellence after his offensive peak was curtailed by injury emphasizes that he was a truly complete player. He showed flashes of his earlier brilliance, recording 40 doubles in 1992, hitting 17 home runs in 1993, and batting .304 in the strike-shortened 1994 season. However, the chronic nature of his injury meant he averaged only 128 games per season over the final 6 years of his career. He ultimately retired prematurely at age 34 in 1995. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of Mattingly's career is that he's commonly cited as the best New York Yankees player to have never appeared in a World Series. This absence from baseball's ultimate stage is particularly heartbreaking given the Yankees' historical success. The team reached the World Series the season immediately preceding his debut in 1981, and again the season after his final game in 1996. His only postseason appearance occurred in 1995, where the Yankees were upset by the Seattle Mariners in the American League Division Series. The Hall of Fame debate surrounding Mattingly perfectly illustrates the classic peak versus longevity argument. His supporters point to his undeniably exceptional peak performance, marked by an AL MVP award, batting title, 6 consecutive All-Star selections, and record-setting defensive excellence. His character and leadership, serving as Yankees captain from 1991 through retirement, further strengthened his case, as many view him as the standard by which players should be measured. However, his career totals, 2,153 hits, 222 home runs, and 1,099 RBIs, fall short of typical Hall of Fame milestones. His career, WAR of 42.4 and JAWS score of 53.4 are generally considered below the average for Hall of Fame first baseman. Mattingly was on the baseball writers ballot for 15 seasons, with support peaking at 28.2% in 2001, but declining to 9.1% by 2015. The Contemporary Baseball Era Committee gave him 8 of 12 needed votes in 2022. Close, but not enough. Following his playing career, Mattingly transitioned into coaching and management. He managed the Los Angeles Dodgers from 2011 to 2015, compiling a .551 winning percentage and guiding them to 3 consecutive NL West Division titles. His tenure with the Miami Marlins from 2016 to 2022 was more challenging, with a .430 winning percentage, though he earned NL Manager of the Year honors in 2020 for leading the team to an unexpected playoff berth. Mattingly's managerial philosophy reflected his era, initially perceived as old school, but gradually embracing analytics. By 2015, he stated, "If you're not using analytics as part of your decision-making process, you're a fool." However, he also expressed concerns about analytics' impact on the game's aesthetics, lamenting that baseball had become unwatchable at times due to rising strikeout rates and overemphasis on power hitting. Beyond baseball, Mattingly has made significant contributions through philanthropy. He founded Mattingly Charities in 2007, dedicated to supporting educational advancement, social development, and athletic programs for underserved youth in his hometown of Evansville, Indiana. The organization has provided over $1 million in grant donations since 2015, with increasing focus on reading programs and STEM education. This commitment to community service directly relates to the character clause often considered in Hall of Fame voting. Currently serving as bench coach for the Toronto Blue Jays, Mattingly remains actively involved in Major League Baseball. Players reportedly soak in every ounce of knowledge he shares, underscoring the enduring respect he commands within the game. His continued presence in coaching ranks demonstrates that his influence extends far beyond his playing statistics. Don Mattingly's career represents both triumph and tragedy, the triumph of exceptional talent and character, and the tragedy of unrealized potential due to circumstances beyond his control. His peak performance ranks among the greatest in baseball history, while his defensive excellence and leadership qualities stories exemplify everything positive about the sport. Though chronic injuries prevented him from accumulating the career totals typically associated with Cooperstown, his impact on baseball extends far beyond statistics. Whether Mattingly belongs in the Hall of Fame remains debatable, but his legacy as Donnie Baseball is secure. He embodied consistency, grit, and defensive mastery, becoming the quintessential Yankee during challenging times for the franchise. His unwavering character, philanthropic efforts, and continued contributions to baseball ensure his place in the sport's history remains cherished and enduring. What do you think? Does Don Mattingly's peak performance and character overcome his shortened career? Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Baseball Legends content.
He is Baseball Hall of Famer, 14-time All-Star, Johnny Bench.
We tried to break out the windows. We would break out the windows across the street. So, I mean, Mickey comes up to me. I'm over there, and he said, "Hey, John, let's go have a drink." Mickey's asking me to go have a drink.
Johnny Bench is nearly 80 years old. When people look at his life, they might see sadness. He's a single father in his late 70s, raising young boys. There's also a feeling that he was robbed. Bench himself said he wished his 1972 lung surgery would have never happened. He said only then he could have had a really good career. But this isn't a story of sadness or what-ifs. It's a story of strength. To understand the man who now finds his greatest purpose as a Hall of Fame dad, you have to understand the man who was defined by his scars. He was a man who was repeatedly broken by fate, by the game, and by his own body. Each time, he pieced himself back together. This is the story of the challenges that forged him. His story starts in Binger, Oklahoma. It was a tiny, windswept town where hard work was a way of life. A young Johnny Bench spent his time picking cotton and delivering newspapers. His father, Ted, was a former semi-pro player who drove a truck for a living. Ted decided Johnny's fastest path to the majors was as a catcher. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was a mandate that would set the course for his entire life. While other boys dreamed of hitting towering home runs, Bench was taught the grueling craft of catching. It was a role that demanded sacrifice, intelligence, and a unique capacity for absorbing punishment. This path demanded toughness. Life provided that in brutal ways. Before he was even drafted by the Cincinnati Reds in 1965, the brakes on his high school team bus failed. The team was returning from an out-of-town game. At an intersection, the bus careened out of control. It jumped a guardrail and rolled violently down an incline toward a ravine. As chaos erupted around him, Bench hit the floor and clung to the bottom of a seat. When the mangled vehicle finally came to rest, his feet were hanging out of the back door. Two of his teammates were dead on the hillside. The event profoundly sobered him. It left him with a deep reluctance to form close friendships, a protective measure against future loss. Just over a year later, in 1966, fate tested him again. He was playing for the Reds minor league team in Buffalo when he suffered a broken thumb. He was sent home to Binger to heal while driving on a 4-lane highway. He pulled out to pass a bus. He was met by a drunk driver in an Oldsmobile careening toward him on the wrong side of the road. The head-on collision was catastrophic. Bench was lucky to escape alive. Miraculously, he had no broken bones. However, the injuries contributed to chronic back problems that would plague him for the remainder of his career. He had faced death twice before he was 19. This gave him a perspective that few could understand, having confronted the sudden and arbitrary nature of death. The pressures of a baseball game were put into a different light. No matter how intense the game was, it could never compare to what he had already survived. This mental strength would allow him years later to perform at an MVP level while secretly harboring the fear of a tumor on his lung. The foundation for that incredible display was laid in the wreckage of a bus and a car on the back roads of Oklahoma. He even turned his injuries into new ideas. That broken thumb in 1966 was a turning point. His throwing hand was constantly exposed to foul tips and wild swings. A great throwing arm was useless if the hand attached to it was perpetually injured. Taking inspiration from Chicago Cubs catcher Randy Hundley, Bench began to experiment. He started catching one-handed, tucking his unprotected throwing hand safely behind his back. At the time, this was a radical departure from tradition, but Bench's success soon made it the universal standard. Catchers at every level of the game now use this technique. He is credited with pioneering the modern hinged catcher's mitt. He was also the first catcher to wear a batting helmet backward while behind the plate. Each innovation was a direct response to a painful experience. He didn't just play the position, he reshaped it in the image of his own survival. It's amazing how his hardest moments defined his legacy. What do you think is the most overlooked part of Bench's early career? Let us know in the comments. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. His rise to greatness was fast. After a brief debut in 1967, he exploded onto the scene. In 1968, he won the National League Rookie of the Year award, becoming the first catcher in either league to earn the honor. He caught in 154 games, a record for a rookie at the position. He recorded 102 assists, a mark of defensive dominance not seen from a catcher in over 2 decades. He was not just a promising newcomer, he was an instant revolutionary. By 1970, at just 22, he had one of the greatest seasons ever for a catcher. He became the youngest player at the time to win the National League's Most Valuable Player award. He led the major leagues with 45 home runs and 148 RBIs. He posted a batting average of of 293, he was the engine of the Big Red Machine, leading a lineup that included future Hall of Famers like Tony Perez and Joe Morgan. He was, without dispute, the best player in the game. Then came the collapse. The 1971 season was a total slump. His batting average plummeted 55 points to a dismal 238. Even more shocking was the evaporation of his run production. His RBI total fell by an almost unbelievable 87 runs. From 148 to just 61, as one analysis noted, many players would be thrilled to drive in 87 runs in a season. Bench's production had dropped by that entire amount. The Reds stumbled to a 79-83 record, their only losing season of the entire decade. The reigning MVP began to hear the unmistakable sound of boos from his home crowd at Riverfront Stadium. The reason wasn't just physical. Bench spent much of the season playing through nagging injuries. Mentally, he was lost, constantly tinkering with his batting stance and grip. The root cause lay in the demands placed upon him in the offseason. He was mentally and physically exhausted from a busy tour after 1970. He had developed bad habits at the plate. The hidden story is this: that tour included Bob Hope's annual Christmas trip in December 1970. Fresh off his MVP season, the 22-year-old found himself on a tour that included Vietnam. There, on Christmas Day 1970, he stood on a stage in Long Binh, trading jokes with Bob Hope and entertaining thousands of American troops embroiled in a deeply divisive war. According to first-hand accounts, the show's conclusion with the collective singing of Silent Night was profoundly moving. There was not a dry eye anywhere. The 1971 slump was a delayed, complete breakdown. It was a convergence of the physical toll of his position, the mental drain of his celebrity, and the profound psychological weight of his experience in a war zone. Instead of a restful off-season to recover, the young superstar was plunged into an emotionally charged environment. The boos he heard in Cincinnati were from fans unaware of the complex human crisis unfolding before them. Bench roared back in 1972. He entered the season with renewed focus. A Sports Illustrated cover showed him grimacing with effort under the headline, "Johnny Bench Bears Down." He recovered his power with a vengeance. The struggles of 1971 vanished as if they had never happened. He led the league with 40 home runs and 125 RBIs. For his spectacular rebound, Bench was awarded his second National League MVP trophy in 3 years. He joined the legendary Roy Campanella as one of the only catchers to win the award multiple times. He had climbed back to the top of the mountain. What no one knew was that he had done so while staring into an abyss. But this comeback was one of the toughest performances in sports history. During a routine team physical in August 1972, in the thick of the pennant race, doctors found a spot on his right lung the size of a silver dollar. In an era of less advanced medical technology, the immediate fear was cancer. The overwhelming concern was that the growth was cancerous. Bench made an impossible choice. At his own insistence, he kept his condition a complete secret from the public and even most of his teammates. He delayed any surgical intervention until the season was over. For the last 2 months of the regular season and the entire postseason, he played knowing that a potentially fatal disease could be growing inside him. The psychological burden is difficult to overstate. Every at-bat was executed under this shadow. Every pitch he called was made with this weight. Every play at the plate was completed under the shadow of his own mortality. Yet his performance never wavered. In fact, under this unimaginable private stress, he delivered one of the most clutch moments of his career in the decisive Game 5 of the National League Championship Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. With the Reds' season on the line, he stepped to the plate in the bottom of the 9th inning. With this secret terror inside him, he hit a dramatic game-tying home run. The Reds would go on to win the game and the pennant moments later on a wild pitch. It was a moment of supreme athletic achievement made all the more legendary by the secret fear he carried to the plate. His second MVP award is arguably a far more impressive feat than his first. It stands as the ultimate testament to the mental armor he had forged in the aftermath of those accidents in his youth. The ability to completely wall off a life-threatening personal crisis from his professional performance required extraordinary mental strength. He had faced death before and had developed a mechanism to function through the fear. The 1972 season was the ultimate test of that learned resilience. A quiet masterpiece of courage painted on a national stage. He had the surgery on December 11th, 1972, at Cincinnati's Christ Hospital. The spot was not cancer. The lesion was benign, but the operation was brutal. The procedure was profoundly invasive. Surgeons had to make a long incision across his chest, cutting through layers of muscle, nerves, and bone to access his lung. Bench emerged from the hospital, relieved that his life was not in danger, but he was also, by his own admission, fundamentally changed. This is the core of his robbed career. In the years following, Bench has spoken with startling honesty about its impact. It was never Johnny Bench anymore, he stated in a documentary. He said he never was the same player afterwards. He directly links the decline in his signature power to the physical trauma of the operation. They cut the ribs, they cut the bones, they cut the nerves, he explained. He was describing the permanent damage done to his torso and the mechanics of his swing. In one of his most revealing statements, the first ballot Hall of Famer said, "I wish the lung surgery would have never happened, so I could have had a really good career." This was not the voice of a man satisfied with his place in history. It was the voice of an artist who felt he had been robbed of his finest tools in his prime. The power was gone, the stats prove it. His average home runs dropped by 34% after the surgery. His RBIs dropped by 20% for the rest of his career. The numbers provide undeniable validation for his feeling that he was never the same. To most fans, his statement seems absurd. He's in the Hall of Fame. He won 2 MVP awards, but to Bench, there was always the ghost of what could have been. But this is where he became a true champion. Robbed of his peak physical gifts, he was forced to change. He had to rely more heavily on his intelligence, his experience, and his unshakable will to win. He became a master craftsman, a tactical hitter who rose to the occasion and did exactly what was required to win. Pre-surgery, his success was built on overwhelming natural talent. Post-surgery, his greatness was a matter of sheer will. It was after this surgery that he led the Big Red Machine to its greatest heights. They won back-to-back World Series championships in 1975 and 1976. The crowning achievements of the dynasty, his evolution culminated in the 1976 World Series against the New York Yankees. While his regular season had been hampered by ailing shoulders, he elevated his game on the biggest stage in a dominant 4-game sweep. Bench was named the World Series MVP, batting an amazing .533 with 2 home runs and 6 runs batted in. In a head-to-head matchup with rival catcher Thurman Munson, Bench was masterful, soundly out-hitting the Yankee captain. This performance was the ultimate evidence of his transformation. The surgery had catalyzed his evolution from a great player into a great champion. This brings us back to his life today. His personal life was always rocky. For years, Bench was hailed as baseball's most eligible bachelor. He had 4 marriages. His first marriage was to Vicky Chesser, a toothpaste model. There was a messy public divorce in 1976 after just over a year. The details that emerged were bizarre and revealing. She claimed that on their wedding night, Bench brought his best man home to play ping pong. The most telling anecdote involved an offer for her to pose nude for a magazine. Chesser claimed she rejected the idea, but Bench encouraged her to accept it, saying, "Why not? It's good money." Bench denied the accusations, stating they were motivated by her disappointment over the alimony settlement. He would later marry Laura Kwiatkowski in 1987, with whom he had his first son, Bobby. They divorced in 1995. A marriage to Elizabeth Benton followed in 1997. In 2004, he married Lauren Bayaki, the mother of his 2 youngest sons. This pattern of marital instability stood in sharp contrast to the enduring consistency he displayed on the field. His oldest son, Bobby, has spoken candidly about the immense pressure of growing up in the shadow of a sporting icon. "It was high school where I truly realized how much pressure is on me," Bobby said, reflecting on the consequences and the toll that takes on you. He recalled hearing snide remarks from coaches about being Johnny's son and was cut from his high school team 2 years in a row. For those closest to him, the legend could be as much a curse as a blessing. His final change came in 2017. His 4th marriage ended over a simple disagreement. Bench wanted to move back to South Florida. Lauren did not want to relocate. The divorce left Bench, then approaching his 70th birthday, with primary custody of their 2 young sons, Justin and Josh. At an age when most contemporaries were enjoying quiet retirement, Bench embarked on the demanding journey of full-time single fatherhood. This is the sad life from the title, but is it? He embraced the role of Mr. Mom. His daily routine became waking at 5:50 in the morning to do laundry, preparing meals like chicken piccata and meatballs, checking homework, and managing doctor's appointments. A 2018 Sports Illustrated story dubbed him Mr. Mom. An MLB Network documentary featured this phase of his life. He described the portrayal as perfect. He created a morning hug ritual with his boys. This late life transition reframed his entire value system. Bench said that being considered a Hall of Fame, Dad would be more important than anything else he has ever achieved. This was not the talk of a man burdened by circumstance. It was the talk of one who had found a new, more profound purpose. After a life of public glory and private pain, he found his deepest purpose. The man defined by scars found his final, greatest victory in the quiet, demanding role of a single father. His legacy is ultimately a dual narrative. On one level, there is the pristine record of the statistical titan, the revolutionary defender, the field general of a dynasty. But his more enduring story is told by the scars. He is the young man who survived 2 horrific accidents and channeled that trauma into an unbreakable will. He is the superstar who fell from the pinnacle, endured the boos of his own fans, and climbed back to the top. He is the champion who played through the private terror of a life-threatening diagnosis. He is the athlete who had his body permanently altered, losing his power only to adapt his game and lead his team to its greatest triumphs. And finally, he is the man who found his most meaningful role as a single father. Johnny Bench's greatness isn't just in his stats, it's in everything he overcame. His greatness is found in everything he was forced to overcome to accomplish it. The scar on his chest from the 1972 surgery is a permanent reminder that his path was not one of effortless dominance, but of painful perseverance. Johnny Bench redefined his position, but it is his lifelong refusal to be defined by his hardships that constitutes his truest and most inspiring legacy. What do you believe is his truest legacy? Is it the revolutionary catcher or the Hall of Fame dad? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more stories behind the legends of sports.